Hello and welcome to another video. Today we'll be looking at the predictions that I made back in August. On the 8th of August I made this video. I've put it up, the predictions for the Premier League. How did I get on? Let's find out. If you do enjoy this video, feel free to smash the like button and subscribe if you are new. But let's have a look at the table I did. Right, so this is the table I did at the start of the season. How did I get on? Let's have a look. So the first one you'll notice is Cardiff City are at the bottom of the league. So they didn't finish bottom of the league. However, Cardiff did indeed get relegated. They finished in 18th place. So I thought Neil Warnock would struggle. I said that there was a lot of championship quality players. They signed championship quality players, the likes of Josh Murphy, for example, Bobby Reed. But I got that one pretty much nearly spot on. I did get them to go relegated, and they got relegated. So I think that one was all right. 2 places below where they actually finished. 19th we had the first bad one. That one was Watford. Watford finished in 11th place, so that was 8 places above where I predicted them to finish. I thought they'd struggle, I really did. I didn't really rate Javi Gracia, to be fair to him. He came in last season, he didn't do too well. They did pretty poorly in his time with the club last season, but this season he has really done well, and they finished in 11th place. They had chances of Europe for a long time. They still have a chance of Europe in the FA Cup. They got to the FA Cup final. They beat Wolves fantastically 3-2. That finished in the FA Cup semi-final. That was an amazing game, and I think they've had a really cracking season. I expected them to struggle, but they did really well. Huddersfield Town, I predicted to finish 18th. They finished bottom of the league, so 2 sides I got right out of the bottom 3, which isn't too bad at all. Huddersfield, they really did struggle, didn't they? They finished on just 16 points, the 3rd lowest total of all time in the Premier League. They really did struggle. I didn't see a way that they would stay up, to be fair. I thought second season syndrome, they would come back down. That's exactly what happened. 17th place we have Bournemouth. I thought Bournemouth would struggle, but they finished in 14th, only 3 places above where I said. They had a really good start to the season. They were up there for a long time. They had some really good wins against the likes of Chelsea and teams like that. Towards the end of the season, they started to fall down a little bit and ended up in 14th place, but that was 3 places above where I picked them to finish. I'm surprised I went for them to finish so low, to be fair. 16th place we have Newcastle, who ended up finishing in 13th place, so they had another fine season as well. I thought they really struggled once again, but I thought they'd have enough to stay up, and that's exactly what they did. They finished in 13th place. They had a really good season overall. Newcastle, they had a big win against Manchester City as well, and they looked pretty decent. They really made the most of the signings they had. I thought Rondon was an absolutely brilliant signing at the start of the season on loan from West Brom. That was a really good, smart signing, and I think that they'll be fine for as long as Rafa Benitez is there. So I am gonna really say that was a decent attempt. 3 places isn't too bad. 15th we have Southampton. Southampton ended up in 16th place, and that wasn't a too bad prediction as well. That was 1 place below where I predicted them to finish. Southampton, they had a really struggling start. They got hammered a couple of times under Mark Hughes, and Mark Hughes lost his job. They brought in Ralph Hasenhüttl, and he did a fine job taking them away from the relegation zone and into safety. I think the next season they will kick on. I thought that last season, to be fair. I think they will kick on under Ralph Hasenhüttl. He's made quite a good impact, to be fair to him, and I think that they will be. I think they'll be okay next season. I think that they will improve. Next we have Burnley, who ended up finishing in 15th, so that was 1 place below, where I tipped them to finish. I thought I tipped them to finish in 14th place. This one was mainly because I thought they would struggle with the whole Thursday-Sunday situation in the Europa League. They didn't end up getting into the Europa League group stages, but the Europa League early start of the season for the Europa League really did take its toll on Burnley at the start of the season. They were sluggish, they really did struggle, and they were in those bottom places for a very long time. They did climb out eventually. Tom Heaton was a catalyst for them to switch things around, and they went on a good run towards the start of January and really made it a bit more respectable. But they ended up in 15th place, but they stayed up, and that's all that matters. And next season they were looking at kicking on once again. I think the one problem they had was they didn't use the market well enough. They should have brought in some more players. I think they brought in Ben Gibson and Joe Hart. I think that they could have done a little bit better there. 13th place we have Brighton, who ended up in 17th place. That's 4 places below where I tipped them to finish. I thought Brighton would do well with their new signings, Jahanbash, Lacardia they signed Basuma as well, who had a decent season. But I thought some of their signings would produce a little bit more than they ended up producing. And to be fair, this wasn't a bad prediction right until about like February time, when they went on a really bad run. Brighton. They were up there and they were in the top half for a while in the start of the season and during like Christmas time. They were going well, and then it all sort of fell apart a little bit in the second half of the season for Chris Hughton. They ended up finishing 17th place, which I suppose they stayed up, and that is the main thing. But I was expecting them to finish a little bit higher with the signings they had made. 12th place, I got this one spot on, and that was Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace did indeed finish in 12th place. They kept hold of Zaha, and I think that was a key moment in them staying up. Roy Hodgson, he can do it, and he's proven it time and time again that he can keep teams up, and that's exactly what he did with Crystal Palace. They were safe. They had some good results. They beat Manchester City at the Etihad, the only team to beat Manchester City at the Etihad this season, so that was a very good achievement for Crystal Palace. They ended up on 49 points. They finished 1 point below Watford, who finished in 11th, so they round mid-table. Very good season for Crystal Palace, and they will be looking on to kick on once again. Their signings didn't work out too well. I thought Guita would have done a bit better, and I also thought Max Meyer would have had a better season than he did. 11th place was Fulham, so I got this one totally wrong. They ended up in 19th. If I'd have swapped Huddersfield and Cardiff and Watford and Fulham, then I'd be looking very good, but unfortunately I didn't do that. So Fulham are the team I tipped to finish 11th, and I thought their amazing football would adapt perfectly to the Premier League. They played some really nice stuff in the Championship. I thought Jokanovic was a good manager. I thought he deserved his chance in the Premier League. They signed some really good players. I thought Seri, Schürrle, Vieto were all really good signings, Lamarckland as well, but they just didn't work out, and it was just a torrid season. They conceded 81 goals, which is just absolutely awful. They have 3 managers. They had Jokanovic, then they went to Ranieri, and then Scott Parker has now got the permanent role at Fulham. Really disappointing season. I honestly thought they would do so much better than that. I thought they signed some really good players, but maybe they signed too many. Maybe they should have only signed a few and adapted. Maybe signed some defenders, because they were absolutely atrocious at the back. 10th place, I went with Leicester City, and Leicester City finished in 9th, so that was 1 place above where I tipped them to finish. Leicester City under Claude Puel, they had a good sort of Christmas time, and then it all fell apart in January, and that's when he ended up getting sacked. In that Christmas spell, they beat City and Chelsea in a very good spell towards Christmas. I expected them to do better. They did sign some really good players. They signed Madison and Ricardo Pereira in particular, who had very good seasons, and maybe they'll be able to kick on next season if they can keep hold of their star players. They also have Tielemans. Maybe they could do a deal there. They had Claude Puel, then they had Brendan Rodgers, and they ended up finishing in 9th place. But it was only a goal difference to stop them finishing 10th, so I was very close with Leicester City. 9th place, I went with Wolves, and Wolves ended up finishing in 7th place, so 2 places above where I tipped them to finish. They signed some really good players, then Donker, Johnny, Rui Patricio and Moutinho were all really quality signings. 7th place to get into Europe. I thought that they would be in Europe in the next few seasons, but they've done it straight away, which is very, very good, and they need to kick on from here. And maybe if things go their way, they could even challenge for the top 6. I don't think they will next season. I think it might be a struggle because they will be playing Europa League, but I still think they'll finish in the top half next season. Another correct one I had was Everton, who finished in 8th place. Everton, they had a really struggling sort of start. They didn't do too bad, and then they had a struggling middle, and then towards the end of the season they had some great results, beating Chelsea, beating Arsenal, beating Manchester United, getting a draw against Liverpool. So they really did improve towards the end of the season. They got another great draw against Tottenham Hotspur away on the last day of the season to finish in 8th place. I think that they'll be disappointed that they didn't get the Europa League, but I think there's a lot of cause to optimism for Everton. They signed some really good players. They signed Richarlison, they signed Kurt Zouma on loan. Hopefully they can make that permanent. They signed Andre Gomez, who was a very good signing as well. So I think that there's a lot of positives coming from Everton, and I think next season they will finish even higher. West Ham, for my tip to finish 7th, they ended up finishing 10th, so that wasn't the best. I thought they'd do really well, and their signings were pretty good, to be fair. Fabianski had a good season. Felipe Anderson had spells where he was very, very good. Issa Diop and Balbuena were the centre-back pairing, and they both did very, very well. Yarmolenko looked very good as well until he had his injury that ruled him out for the rest of the season. So I thought they would have finished a little bit higher than they did, and maybe if they would have had Yarmolenko fit for the rest of the season, maybe he would have made an impact so that they would be maybe 7th or 8th, but that didn't happen. They ended up in 10th place. Manuel Pellegrini, I think he's done a good job, especially considering at the start of the season they lost all 4 of their opening games. If they wouldn't have done that, maybe they would have ended up, you know, in the top 7, but unfortunately they didn't. But I still think they had a really good season. 6th place, and I feel a bit weird that I did go for Arsenal to finish 6th, but 6th I went with Arsenal, and I think that their signings were really good. I thought they did very well in the summer transfer window, bringing in Socrates, bringing in Lucas Torreira, bringing in Bernd Leno, and those 3 had very good seasons for Arsenal, and they finished in 5th place. So I wasn't too far away. They were just missed out on the top 4, and they do have a Europa League final to look forward to. So maybe that is something that they can maybe sort out and maybe get into the Champions League, which would be a very credible season for Unai Emery. 5th place, I went with Chelsea. This was before they signed Kepa, and they also signed Higuain, who didn't make much of an impact after this. But I thought Chelsea would struggle to implement their style. I thought the style of play that Sarri would introduce would be totally different to the style that they were used to under Conte and under Mourinho. I thought that would take a while to implement, and it started off really well. Then they went through a bad patch, losing to Leicester at home, then lost to Bournemouth away, and also lost to City 6-0. And they did have a really bad sort of December, January time, but they sorted that out and ended up in 3rd place. So amazing season for them, really, considering I tipped them to finish 5th. They've done really well. They got to Europa League final as well, got to the Carabao Cup final, so they've had a really good season, and I think that they will win the Europa League in my opinion. So I think they've done alright, and they can push on for next season, but it will be a struggle without being able to sign any players besides obviously Christian Pulisic, who's already been done. 4th place, I got this one right, Tottenham Hotspur. Despite not signing anyone, I was pretty sure they would finish in the top 4. I think they have a really good squad. I think that they probably should have finished 3rd with the squad they have. They're a really tidy team, but they did get into the Champions League final, and that's something that they have to look forward to. I think next season they'll have to kick on and make some signings if they want to finish in the top 4, because I think that Manchester United and Arsenal will both improve next season. But Tottenham, they have really done well, considering the restraints that they've had with bringing in just absolutely no one. It's not been a very good transfer wise. It's been a struggle for Tottenham. 3rd place, I went for Manchester United. I just thought Manchester United, with the squad they had, finishing 2nd, that they still finish in the top 4. I thought Mourinho, he's good at grinding results out, so I think I should have maybe gone with them to finish a little bit lower, to be fair, because their summer business wasn't the best, in my opinion. They really did juggle in the transfer window. Diego Dalot was a young lad from Portugal. They signed Lee Grant, and they signed Fred as well. So that wasn't the best business, so maybe I should have picked them to finish a little bit lower. Liverpool I had in second, and that's where they finished on 97 points. An amazing season by Liverpool. I thought they really did improve. I thought Fabinho, Alisson were really good signings. I thought Shaqiri was a tidy signing for just 13 million. And I thought they spent their money very, very well. I thought Naby Keita would do a bit better than he ended up doing. But that was not the case. But they did fairly well. They aim was to win the league, I think, and that's where they just slipped and didn't do it. But they had an amazing season, and they got the Champions League final to look forward to. So I think their senior season has been very good, and I think they will improve in the summer next season and come back even stronger. And finally, Manchester City were the team I tipped to finish top of the league, and they did just about. They finished 1 point ahead of Liverpool, and what a season they had. They had 32 wins, 95 goals scored, 23 goals conceded, plus goal difference of 72. A brilliant season for them. I just felt that City had a better squad than Liverpool, and I thought that would be the difference. And you know, what a close title race it was. But I think it was 5 I had right. I had Manchester City right, I had Liverpool right, I had Tottenham right, I had I think it was Crystal Palace right as well, and Everton right. So I had 5 right, which I think is pretty good. That's 1 in 4 right, and it's hard. And I had a lot of very close. So those were my predictions. Feel free to tell me in the comments where I went right and where I went wrong. Thanks so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. Leave a like if you did. Thanks so much for watching. My name is Mike, and I will see you soon.